Okay, this drawing is going to be a full value drawing. And when I say full value, I'm talking all parts of light and shadow, the transitions considered, where is the edge soft, where is it hard, and so on. So you'll see me starting this with a gesture. I kind of just blasted it out there and starting the gesture over again. And I'll do this as often as I need to get the position and the pose kind of feeling good. All right, and then after the gesture, I'll move through into the measuring stages of the drawing. So you'll see as we go forward in this time-lapse portion, me moving through like the straight line block in, the measuring, double checking sizes of everything, making sure things are reading more or less accurately before moving on into the shadow shapes drawing, which we've done. And then the final thing will be kind of working those transitions and working the value relationships to get things feeling like there's a sense of the light source, a sense of the forms and the roundness of things that need to be round, the shadows being where they should be, and so on. Okay, so I feel relatively decent about where things have ended up. So now I'm going to start moving into those shadow shapes. And again, this is going at quite a lot faster than the original drawing was going, but I'm really just going through that shadow shapes approach where I find the border between light and shadow and then fill those shadow shapes in lightly. And I am catching some stuff that's just a little bit not quite in the shadow. So in the case of the ribs there, but largely what I'm looking for is that light shadow border to try and separate the two so I can work with them somewhat independently. I'm just kind of ignore this back leg a little bit, so I don't want it to take too much attention, so I'm just going to let it be sort of faded that way, just one pass of value. You saw me smear with my hands. That's going to give me some value on the page that I can erase out of, and you'll see me use the eraser to lift the lights out of the light side. It's almost like drawing with white charcoal on black paper like we had done, only now I'm using my eraser to draw the light shapes on a drawing I've already drawn, essentially. But I need to be able to see the light shapes and make decisions about them. I'm going to be careful not to put any eraser work into the shadows. Right now I'm just darkening things that are near the reflected light so that the reflected light jumps out. That's what I want to be doing in the shadows. I don't want to be using my eraser in the shadows. This is a blending stump. It's totally optional. It's not on the materials list, but it can let you blend in a very specific and tightly controlled way. Your fingers can also work. They're just not quite as specific. I really don't want to go overboard on these ribs here. It's going to be easy to draw so many shapes all over the place that I get a little bit bewildered. And do I really want to focus on the ribs so much? Maybe I do, in which case I exaggerate them a lot. But in this case, I'm just going to let them kind of be hinted at rather than be really strong. All right, here I am going in with the eraser, pulling out some of those light shapes, and you can kind of see me getting back to the paper. It'll really start popping because of that. At this point, and for the rest of the drawing really, all I'm trying to do is find the transitions between light and shadow. I feel like my light and shadow are relatively separate. I need to basically show the viewer where they should look. And in this case, because of the time constraints I put on this drawing, I'm going to limit it to that elbow and shoulder down to the hip and that front leg. Those are going to be the things that I kind of pay the most attention to. The back leg, the head, they're going to kind of fall back. They're already behind those things I just listed. I'm just going to encourage them to fall back by not trying to shade them out in their entirety. And I'm not going to try and render them completely. I'm going to draw attention instead to the shoulder and ribs, hip, elbow situation. Particularly, I'm looking at where edges are hard, where edges are soft, what the transitions look like, and getting that as convincing as I can. And then I'm just going to let that forearm drop off as it goes towards the edge of the page. I already decided previously that I'm just going to encourage the viewer not to look over here, and it's going to be that dark shape of the fabric kind of sketchily leading us back down to that foot, so we stay kind of in the body on this drawing. All right, and then I'll do some eraser work here to clean up the silhouette of the figure as well. So I can bring the eraser in and kind of carve back into the negative shapes to clean up the edge as well. So that eraser, for me, the combination of your eraser and your charcoal, they kind of work together at this stage of the drawing to give you what you need. So don't neglect your eraser. It can really help you describe a light shape, describe a shiny spot, carve the silhouette in a more convincing manner. It's really a useful tool at this stage of the drawing when you're working with values and light and shadow. And that'll just about do it for this drawing. I could carry this drawing on for many, many more hours, really fine-tuning everything. What we're concerned about for our purposes is showing that we can separate light and shadow, deal with transitions, and that we see evidence of highlight, center light, halftone, core shadow, reflected light, bit of cast shadow if it's appropriate. We just want to be able to show all of those parts of light and shadow and have them transition appropriately and be the right value relative to each other as well.